Good morning, friends. Good day. I hope you guys are living your best life. Good morning. Good morning. I hope you got your coffee ready. I hope you're ready and excited because listen, I've got a lot I've got to get off my chest today. About this excuse that schools don't teach us what we need to know about finances. I think that's a ridiculous excuse to allow ourselves to maintain being broke, poor, struggling, without budgets, without the right types of life insurance, without the right types of investments, or without the right types of retirement plans, and also just being young and not caring about money. I think there's a lot of issues with that being an excuse. And if you guys won't go anywhere else, then guess what? You get to hang out with me in the mornings, and we get to talk about these things. And if you're not watching with me live, guess what you can do? You can come on over to YouTube and watch live. I mean, there's tons of visuals that I show in these podcasts so that you guys can get the chance to learn the blueprint, the proper path to success. Whatever that success means for you, I hope we've got it here for you. So I've got my coffee, and I like to drink my coffee with you guys in the morning. So cheers. I drink my coffee in the morning. I feel like it's a very necessary ritual. Since I started podcasting, I like to always have my coffee at the same time as you guys. So if you don't drink coffee, I get it too. But listen. I'm extremely excited about today's episode, and mostly because it's just going to be very educational today. And I'm going to be going over a lot of different principles. Now, today's principles are all just very basic principles. There's nothing like overly complicated about today's episode at all. I'm just gonna be diving deep into a lot of the basic stuff that you should have been taught years ago. However, understand that a lot of this stuff is not your fault that you haven't learned it, because it's very difficult to acquire. I talked about it so many times before in other podcasts and other episodes where I specifically shared just how difficult it is to find financial education, because you don't get it in school, which, to be honest with you, there was a study done over 10-year span where they actually had planners, like financial planners, go and teach financial education and literacy to high school students for 4 years straight. And they followed their lives after that for up until, I believe, they were like age 30. And it was released, I believe, back in 2016. Those financial literacy classes did nothing for those children who became adults. There was no difference in them and that sample group versus the sample group who did not take any financial literacy classes. No difference. And they also reported that the students, while they were in the classes, taking it in school, they also said that they didn't know what was going on. They don't know anything, even though it was very basic stuff. But the hardest thing whenever you're trying to learn financial literacy and education is that you don't really have the time and the experience to apply what some of these very abstract concepts are to experiences. You don't have those experiences to do that. So it's very difficult for them whenever they were growing up and they're in high school to actually grasp that knowledge. So even when it was taught in school, it didn't do anything for people. And also they also reported a lot of them didn't listen. So in hindsight, we're blaming the fact that financial literacy wasn't taught at school. Maybe not to you. And even if it had, you probably wouldn't have done anything about it. Not at that point. So now when you're struggling, or now when you're better off because you finally learned some things as an adult, you learn things because you were able to also apply them at the same time. And so today I want to help teach you some of these things and help you apply them at the same time. I think that's fair, especially because I get so tired of hearing, "Oh, I didn't learn this in school. Nobody taught me this. So how was I supposed to know? Oh my God." Listen. If you're waiting for someone else to teach you everything, you're going to be lost, and you're going to have a very, very probably short life as well. Probably a very short life as well. So if you are watching this live, I would love to hear your feedback as we go through this. But also, I know many of my community, many of my audience are also in the finance industry or in the sales industry, in real estate, in different industries. So be sure to share this episode, share the videos that come from this as well, with your clients, with people that you know who also need to learn some of these things. Because probably the biggest thing about this is just that most of this, you have to go somewhere and get paid assistance. They won't teach you these things. They'll set you up something wrong. They will not help you understand money planning properly, all of these different things. So I want to dive deep into today. There's also a book that I'll recommend to you guys at the end of today, but we're likely not going to get through all the stuff. So if you need to, be sure to subscribe or follow wherever you're watching or listening to this from, so you get the continuation. This is going to be the next series of this financial literacy blueprint series that we're going to do over the next few weeks. So that way I can really dive deep into a lot of the concepts for you guys. So there will be some concepts in here today that we're going to dive deep into, that we're going to touch. We're not going to dive deep into them today. So make sure that you are prepared for that. Make sure you're subscribed, so that way you can get some of the good information. Let me just do this little transition so I can get everything prepared. Not that one. There we go. Beautiful. All right. So I'm, like I said, very ready and excited to be teaching you guys all about the concepts of basic financial literacy. Again, this is just very, very basic stuff that yes, you might not have been taught this in school, but these are very basic things that you can look up information about. You can get your basic education, but this is just going to help to start your journey to wealth building and security. There's going to be so much we're going to talk about today. And also I want to make sure that I have my pen ready because I will be drawing a lot, as we always do. If I can find, there we go. Today will be a lot of drawing. All right, so let's go ahead and get into today's main topic, basic principles of money. Now, whenever I sit down with any clients, and shout out to Rory Finance, my agency, if you guys want to be able to get some free consultation, free financial planning, free assistance, free education, free plan setup, free all that kind of stuff, right? You want to be able to get all of that, those things. There are links in the description below, so just check them out. Also, I know a lot of my clients also watch this too, so you can use any of those links down below. You can also share this with any referrals as well if you choose to. But if you guys do want that, feel very, very free to go and schedule an appointment with me or anybody in my agency. They all understand these concepts and they are very big on teaching. But I teach these things to my clients whenever we very first start off, so that way they understand a lot of things that they probably have not ever heard of before. So the very first thing we're going to get into today is just talking about just how money grows. All right. There's a lot that we're going to talk about here, but the first thing we're going to talk about is how money grows. And I love this concept. This is something that I didn't even know until I started in my firm. When I started with my firm, they taught me the concept of the rule of 72. Now I've talked about this briefly before on the channel, on the podcast, but just to dive a little bit deeper into it, I want to talk about interest, because most people stop that. Most people don't understand how interest works. Now, when it comes to interest, there are multiple types of interest. There is the interest that we all hate, right? There's interest that we hate, right? Like debt. You got your credit card interest, You've got interest on your loans, interest on your auto loans, your home interest, things like that, right? And that sucks. And that interest definitely compounds as well. The interest definitely compounds. It grows over time, and it sucks. That's really what ruins. That's one of the factors that ruins your wealth so much. Is the interest that you're paying? Because I mean, there's so much. I mean, I've got most recently a family of clients who they're working with some of my debt planners and debt attorneys, and they are going to be able to save them over $500,000 in debt interest alone in their lifetime. And for the record, they're not in a bad place financially. They don't have a crap ton of debt. They've got about $700,000 worth of debt. A brand new house is in that. Brand new house. But after paying on all of the debt because of all of the interest, they would have ended up paying over $1.2 million on that debt because of the interest over time, over the next 49 or 50 years, actually 49.9 years. Shout out to you guys. I'm really proud. I'm really excited for you guys. But they're going to end up paying because of them working with my debt planners and debt attorneys, they're going to be able to they're going to be able to save $500,000 of debt payments because of interest canceling and paying off interest properly in the proper way. But I say that so that way you understand, you might not even think that you're in a bad place financially or with interest on your debt. You might not even think, but that's mostly because nobody's ever sat down with you and shown you how much interest is working against you. And one of the biggest things I can tell you is, if you have never understood this concept of interest, it is so important. Now that's the bad side of interest, right? Then there's also the good side of interest, but the good side of interest doesn't feel as good. The good side of interest doesn't feel as good. Now, the reason why the good side of interest doesn't feel as good as the bad side of interest is because typically the bad side of interest is interest is stacking on a lot more money earlier, right? So I'm going to explain what I mean by that. But on this side of interest, the good side of interest, that's where sometimes we understand, like, you put your money in a bank and you tell yourself it's going to grow. You put your money in a savings bond, you tell yourself it's going to grow. You put your money somewhere and you believe that it's going to grow, right? And it's growing because of interest, because of the interest rate that is applied to the account. All right. Now, for the most part, there is a percentage that is always put on an account, or or it changes or varies based on where you put your money at. Super simple. So that means that you could actually be growing money on your money that you're putting away or saving or you've got in some account, right? You've got 1%, 2%, 4% interest rates on basic bank accounts, whether it's like CDs, regular savings accounts, high yield savings accounts, things like that. So we're going to talk about some of those here shortly. But like I said, the good interest versus the bad interest. Well, when you start off with debt, you'd likely start off with a loan of a lump sum of money, maybe $5,000, $10,000, $100,000, $500,000. And the interest stacks on top of that, on that amount of money. So interest, when it comes to debt, feels like it just has the potential to grow so much faster and so much worse. And it does. Versus if you start saving $50 a month, then $100 a month, then $200 a month, then $1,000 a month, and then $2,000 a month, you're never going to have the same amount of interest growth as you would with debt interest growth from your own savings. Never. And so I say this because I want a lot of people to understand. When you look at interest, if you think saving $200 a month is going to be enough to offset your debt, again, you're probably not even thinking about how bad or how much interest you're going to be paying in debt when you're not focus in understanding how to offset the debt interest with $200 a month, you're making no changes at all. You're making no changes at all. You're not balancing it out. At that point, there's almost no point in saving. At that point, there's almost no point in saving if you don't understand how you're stacking against the interest of debt, especially if you have a home. Many of you guys have a home. Many of you do. So you've already got a large chunk of interest working against you, right? So it's like when you think of where your money is going, you can't compartmentalize them in two different sections. You have to think about your entire net worth, right? Your entire net worth. So if you've got $500,000 of debt with all this interest, and you're trying to build, your emergency funds, savings, or so, you've got 4% interest over here, but 20% interest over here for whatever reason, right? You're not building wealth. You might be paying down debt and building up a small emergency fund, but you're not building wealth because all this interest just eating away at, one, the interest on your savings accounts, and two, basically the money. And then also, we're not even going to talk about inflation, because I'm talking about inflation as the all-time wealth and retirement killer. More than anything else, inflation. So, intro to interest. Now let's talk about simple versus compound interest. Now there's not as many places now that are still doing simple interest, but it does happen in some types of accounts, whether growth accounts or debt accounts, where the difference between simple interest and compounding interest is very subtle, but very important over time. So many people don't even know that there is a difference between that there's two types of interest, I'll even say. So let's talk about simple interest. Is my pen not working? My pen is not working. Oh, my toe. All right, there we go. Got it working now. Thank you for the slight hold. All right, so let's talk about simple. And it just went away. Now it's working. There we go. All right, so let's talk about simple interest first. Now that is working for me. All right, simple interest. So when it comes to simple interest, this is super simple, really simple. Let's say that you put $100 in an account that has simple interest. They're going to establish, or they're going to provide an interest rate for you. So maybe that interest rate is 10%. So this means that you're going to get every interest period, every period where they give you interest, right? Let's just say every year, they're going to give you 10% on your account. So 100%, or excuse me, 10% on $100. So this is going to be plus $10 to your account, meaning you end up with $110. Now, what simple interest is going to do, it's once again going to give you 10% on the principal amount, what you have in there, your initial principal, your initial balance. So this is going to be another $10 added to your account. at $120. Same thing, it'll keep adding $10. $10 to your account, 130. That's what simple interest does. Very simple. It's going to give you the same amount of money every single time that it builds interest. Now, the difference between that and compound interest is very small up front. Very small up front, but it has a much longer, much more different path than, angle than simple interest. When it comes to compound interest, if you start an account with $100 and it has 10% interest rate, for instance, you're going to get $100, or excuse me, you're going to get $10 or 10% of your $100, which is going to put you at $111 or $110. With compound interest, it compounds on your new account balance, not the principal. The principal is the money that you put in first. So this means 10% of $110, which is $11. So you're going to get $11 added to your account. Now you're going to have $221. No, not 200. You're going to have $121. There we go. $121. And then from there, there's going to be another 10% added on to the $121. So it's going to be $12.1, which is now going to put you at $133.1, right? That's what it's going to put you at, and it's going to continue to stack from there. Now, with simple interest, by the time we got here, you'd be at only $130. A $3 difference isn't that much at that point, but it does change and it does scale. The longer that you have those accounts, the longer that money is growing. It's going to change and scale based just on the fact that it's compounding on the new account balance, not the principal number of what you put in and what you started with. So compound interest is going to help your money just grow basically exponentially. Now, how can you calculate that compounding interest? How can you understand? Because there are so many people who put money into some sort of account, some product, and they don't necessarily understand, right? They don't understand how long it's going to take to grow. As an example, a lot of grandparents, they'll buy like a treasury bond for their grandbabies and say, "Oh yeah, that'll be your college savings fund." And that's so adorable. It's so adorable. But they don't really even know much about it, right? They don't know much about finances. They just know, okay, if I get this for them and they leave it in this treasury bond for 20 years or for 18 years, and then they're ready to go to college, they can use this to pay for college. So adorable. So adorable. Here, let's go ahead and talk about that. So the rule of 72 is going to teach you how to properly calculate exactly how much your money is going to grow over time. So what it tells you is that you need to take the number 72, divide it by whatever your interest rate is. Now, this can be given specifically on a fixed interest rate. A lot of times you might put it into a variable account where maybe the account goes up and down based on the market. Maybe you just get a fixed interest rate, but it changes itself based on all types of things. All right. But whatever it is, you take 72, divide that by your interest rate, and it's going to give you the number of years that it's going to take for your money to double. This is going to help you understand at what point you'll have that actual amount of growth. So to give an example, let's say that grandparents put $500 into a U.S. Treasury bond. And over the last 20 years, U.S. Treasury bonds were around 4.16%, I believe. So that means we're going to take, and I'll just give an example. That means we're going to take the number 72 divided by 4. I'm just going to round it to 4% instead of 4.17%. 4%, which should take you 18 years. So kind of perfect. 18 years for your money to double one time. 18 years for your money to double one time. So if they bought a U.S. Treasury bond for you, expecting for it to grow into $80,000 by the time you are 18, it's not how it works. And again, now this is average because U.S. Treasury bonds go up and down based on the economy and things. So it goes up and down. Like in 2018, I know for sure, or excuse me, 2008, when the housing market crashed, when the stock market crashed, U.S. Treasury bonds were up at 10%, and I believe 11% in 2009. So like they can get up there, but on average, let's say 4%. All right. So that means it's going to take 18 years for the money to double one time. So that means by the time that baby is now 18 years old, ready to go to college, their U.S. Treasury bond is worth $1,000. Grandparents was like, oh, you're going to go to college. I put so much money away for you. And to be honest with you, $500 to them was probably a lot of money to start saving on for a grandkid. But they don't understand this concept. And this $1,000 after 18 years isn't even going to be worth the same $1,000, or isn't even going to be worth the $500 that the grandparents put in initially. Not even going to be worth the same amount of money, right? If you could get a $500 bicycle at the time that grandparents put it in 18 years ago, that $500 bicycle is not even going to be worth $1,000 today because of inflation. Well, it won't be worth $1,000. Excuse me. It might be like worth a $700 bicycle. Now, if you added, a zero to this, then you'd be looking at $10,000. You'd be looking at $10,000, which would be pretty cool. That would help out. Still wouldn't do as much, but that would help out. So that's the difference between the rule of 72. That's how you understand how to calculate how fast your money is going to grow. This is so very important to understand at a basis, because you have to think, if your money is not growing, you are already behind. The fact that I just showed you at 4%, that I'm going to pull up Money Champ. Future value, $1,000, 18 years to the future, at a 3.7%. 3.7% is the inflation rate. That $1,000, 18 years into the future, you can't see. All right, so if after 18 years, we've got $1,000, 18 years later, with inflation at 3.7%, the actual inflation, is going to be actually worth $519. It's going to be actually worth $519. Grandparents really thought that they did something, but they just didn't know. And my grandma did it for us. I think this is literally the case. I think I actually had about $1,000. I think I had $1,200. And it's so disheartening knowing this and knowing what people do and they not understand, because it's only now worth $519. So I mean, you kept about you gained about $19 worth of value. So this is so important, because if you are not actively focused on building your wealth the way you should be, if you're not actively focused on building your wealth the way that you should be, you are already behind. Just the fact that you're putting money into such a low interest bearing account is already very hard to outpace inflation. Already very hard to outpace the inflation. One. But now, if you're not saving somewhere, you're not putting your money somewhere, if you're not growing money to hedge against inflation for the interest, you're even more behind. Because already and that's 4%. If you cannot find a 4% account, at all, then you're almost better off keeping the money that you have now and using it for something else. Almost better off, because it's just going against inflation. If you're gonna choose not to find an account that's growing better than 4%, if you're not gonna take a little bit of risk to be able to get some better growth more than 4%, you almost might as well just use that money now. It'll do you so much better. That's what people think. That's what people think. Well, granted, a lot of people don't even understand this concept or inflation, but that's the way a lot of people think. Why save? Because if I put my money into this account, I've been saving for 6 months. I've been saving for a year. I've been saving for 2 years, and I've seen no growth. I might as well just use this money now, because it's hurting me more. It's not growing for me. And if they understand inflation, it's not outpacing inflation. And on top of that, I can't even use it now. That's what they think. But most people don't understand why those low accounts exist, and they're trying to build wealth. They're trying to grow money. They're trying to grow some savings in those accounts, and that sucks. That's why I'm here today, because you don't know where else to put your money at, or you're scared to risk it. You gotta pick one. Either be scared to have no money, or be scared to risk and have chances of more money. You got two options, but there's always a third option. I want to explain you the third option as well. But for the most part, when you think of it, you got two options before you even knew. So as I explained before, you need to understand the rule of 72 when you start looking at your debt interest versus your savings and growth accumulation interest. Because if you got $500,000 of debt, the interest, let's just say you just got one mortgage, and let's do it. Let's say you've got one more. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna show you guys again. All right, let's say you got a house, a $500,000 house. You put 20% down payment on it, 30-year loan, interest rate 6.7, and you live in Nashville, Tennessee. You bought the house for $500,000. Total loan amount is $400,000. Total interest paid $845,000. Total cost of the loans almost $800,000. Almost $800,000. Look at all of this interest that you're going to pay. $11,000. Let me zoom in. $11,000 by the end of the first year. Look, after 1 year, you've only knocked off $226. You've only knocked off $226 after paying on your mortgage for 1 entire year. Continue on. Look at all of this interest that you're going to end up paying. The reason I say this is because since you are paying all of this extra interest, if you think saving saving $500, $50 a month, $200 a month, $100 a month, $1,000 a month, you're not even offsetting the amount of interest that you're getting on the debt. Your savings interest is just getting eaten away by your actual interest on your debt. And that's just on a home, let alone on a credit card. So you're never actually building wealth, because you're already so negative. You're already so negative just because you got a loan, right? But granted, it's great because your house will eventually have value, right? It will have equity. So that'll be great. So you have that as part of your net worth. But over the next 30 years, you're going to have all of this interest you're going to be paying on. And if you think just making extra payments is going to help, it's definitely not. is definitely not. Just making extra payments does not help. Yeah, it'll bring it down maybe like $40,000 of interest. But you actually need interest cancellation. You actually need those strategies, right? So when it comes to debt interest versus your actual savings interest, if you are not actively planning for both and understanding both, you're only shooting yourself in the foot. You're only shooting yourself in the foot. Now, just because I was sharing that, I actually want to go ahead and give a sponsorship for today. Just because I was sharing that with you guys about interest debt versus savings debt. Now, one of my affiliateship partnership companies that I have that is going to I will personally openly sponsor today for today's video is Weightless Financial. I've talked about them a lot, but I didn't share much about their name and who they are. But Weightless Financial is who I have a partnership with for you guys, for our podcast, also for my YouTube channels, but primarily for my finance agency, where with Weightless Financial, their entire goal is to help you achieve financial freedom through debt education and debt-free programs. Whether you have good debt, bad debt, ugly debt, medical debt, collections, home loans, auto loans, whatever the case is, they're not only just about like regular financial companies where regular debt assistance companies. A lot of them are into only settlement or negotiation. But Weightless Financial, they're actually built to help you achieve total financial success. So a lot of people don't have bad debt. A lot of people have mortgages, car loans. They have things like that where it's not necessarily bad, but you can't go through like a debt settlement or debt negotiation, debt resolution with those companies because you've got it. And one of the biggest things about debt settlement or debt resolution companies is the fact that one, it has to either go to collections, or two, you have to stop paying on that debt so that way they can take care of the debt. But Weightless Financial, yes, they do have programs like that. They do have resolution programs. They do have consolidation programs. They do have refinance programs. They've also got doors and programs to help you cancel debt, interest, all types of things. So if you have any sort of debt at all, whether it's good debt, bad debt, ugly debt, student loans, federal student loans, private student loans, whatever the case, and you just want to get a good understanding of your interests, how your interest works for you or against you, and how you can repurpose that money to build better wealth over time, definitely check out weightlessfinancial.com. I will put a link in the description down below for you guys to be able to actually go to and utilize. Just make sure where it asks for like financial professional, just put my name in, Charming. When it asks for the agency, just put in RFF, Royal Family Finance. That is my finance agency. So that way they know to give you the, by the way, they'll take care of you for free. Just make sure you put my name in whenever you do work with them. Put my name in, Charming, and then for the agency, RFF, Royal Family Finance. So just make sure to check them out if you are wanting to understand much more about debt interest cancellation, good debt, bad debt, ugly debt, whatever the case is. I believe that their minimum amount of debt is $6,000 to work with them. So if you got at least $6,000, they can definitely sit down and work with you. They've also got debt attorneys that are there. That's primarily what they're going to do. They've got debt attorneys that are there who are going to actually assist you on your path as well. So they'll write contracts for you. They will go to court with you. After maybe you're on a debt program, they'll write to the credit bureaus to help you get all of the bad things that are on your report all cleared up. So just like I said before, check out Weightless Financial. I'll put a link in the description down below so that way you guys can go and just have a free consultation with them. Again, free consultation with them. Make sure to put in my name, Charming, and then when it talks about the agency, put in RFF, Royal Family Finance. You need just RFF. That's my finance agency, and they will sit down with you for free. They'll make sure they give you the best treatment as well. And afterwards, if you do have a good conversation with them, let me know in the comments, so you guys DM me on any of the platforms. I would love to be able to help you guys out. But Weightless Financial has changed many of my clients' lives. It's changed my life as well. It's helped me massively. Just check out their financial GPS tool. You guys will be absolutely in love. and you'll be out of debt within probably about 2 years, 10 years, depending on the amount of debt that you have. So that is interest and how it grows. That is interest, how it grows, how it harms you, how it helps you, how quickly it grows. But just to give you a couple other examples of the rule of 72, as I said before, I'm going to dive deep into a lot of these things. So I know we're not going to get into everything today, but we're going to dive very deep into them. But here's a couple of examples. If you got an account that is growing at 4%, this is how quickly your money is going to grow. If you start with $10,000 at the age of 29, let's say you've saved over the last 10 years to get, or from 19 to 29, $10,000, and you finally put it into like a 4%, maybe high yield savings account, it'll be $40,000 by the time you're age 65. Let's say you were able to find an 8% account on average, right? That 8% account on average, it'll double every 9 years. 72 divided by 8 is 9. So you have $160,000 by the time you're 65. And then once again, let's say that instead you find an account that's growing at 12%. It'll double every 6 years. And by the time you're 65, instead, you will have $640,000. The only difference between this person is where they end up putting that money. It's the only difference. They saved for the last 10 years to make it to $10,000 by the time they're 29. And then they decide, okay, I want to put this somewhere. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to just find a 12% account sitting on the floor, right? You're not just going to walk across an account and you're like, oh, man. So that's where it's very important to understand the different places to be able to put your money at, right? Now, I'm not going to dive super deep into this because we don't have time for today, but I will dive much deeper into this in the next episode, right? So let's just talk about how your money grows, because there's three patterns of which your money gains interest, of which your accounts grow. Now, Charming, I don't even have enough money to put money into an account. I don't even have enough money to save money. I'm trying to just live day to day. I bet. And I'm going to tell you, if your money's not in any of these accounts, if you're not prioritizing at least one of these, definitely should have a good combination of all three, but at least one of these, then you're hurting yourself and you're not building any wealth. And that's where you should definitely sit down and weigh this financial, because if that's the case, you're probably in a lot of debt, right? Or you got tons and tons of expenses, which at that point in time, still sit down with my agency, because we'll help you out with managing expenses. But outside of that, once you have taken care of that, or you do have the money, the extra discretionary income, or you are putting your money else somewhere, or maybe you got lump sums or something sitting somewhere, wherever the case is, there's three patterns for which all money grows in any account: fixed, variable, and indexed. These three patterns. Now, these three patterns are very, very important to understand the differences between them, right? So first off, you've got fixed accounts. I've talked about these three before. You got fixed accounts. These accounts are super safe, right? Typically held with banks. So your money's safe. It's not going anywhere. It's typically FDIC insured, right? But they don't have much growth. These are the accounts that you're seeing that are like 0.01%, 0.35%, 1%, up to maybe like 5% if we got some really good high yield savings accounts. But outside of that, that's all that they're good for: safety. Also, they're good for liquidity. Right? Liquidity. You can put money in, take money out whenever you want to. There's no penalty. They're good for liquidity as well. But savings accounts are these sorts of fixed accounts are really only good for emergency funds. And that's about it. You don't want to grow your money here. This is not where you want to be saving money, right? Or saving money to like grow for wealth building or anything like that. This is not where you want to do that. Emergency funds are fantastic here, but that's it. Now, when it comes to emergency funds, if they're going to be in these sort of accounts, your emergency funds are likely not outpacing inflation. Now, this is why it's very important to understand high yield savings accounts. And I teach about, you guys, I've taught about high yield savings accounts on the podcast before. So you guys can just search wherever you're choosing to listen to this podcast or watch this podcast, search for my high yield savings accounts and emergency funds video or podcast, and you'll be able to learn all about it. I'll probably do an updated one for this year as well, because things kind of change all the time. So I will do an updated one for you guys. But you definitely need to understand the difference between why you should put your money in a high yield savings account versus mutual funds, and also versus just a regular savings account or a CD, because those high yield savings accounts are going to give you the best growth. Well, excuse me, the best growth and safety and liquidity all at the same time, which is what you want for emergency funds. Then you've got variable accounts. Most people are very, very, very familiar with variable accounts. You can see the pattern right here. The money goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Excuse me, that's your interest rate, right? That's your interest rate going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, just like your money, right? Now, because variable accounts are, say with me, variable, that means that there are risks that you take. Variable because it can go down, it can be low, right? You can have negative years, but also it can be really, really high growth potential, right? The more risk that you're willing to take, the more chances for you to gain a lot more money. People are terrified of variable accounts, especially like after 2008 with the housing market crash, right? Especially after like COVID. Now, especially like for most of the year so far, most people were terrified the last few months about the market, and now it's starting to recover a little bit. It's starting to go back up. I think the Dow Jones had a record day about a week ago after the Iranian bombs. So, for the record, there is great things with the market that people are just so terrified of, right? But these kind of accounts you can find in stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, crypto, anything that you cannot get a guarantee on your interest rate. There's that. Now, can you get will people give you like averages? Yeah, they will. They will. They can at least, you can find different accounts that are like, hey, these ones are averaging. We're trying to, these ones are blended and balanced to where you've got 2% average growth, or 5 or 10 or 12% average growth. Yeah, and they will do what they can with a good blend of those accounts to help you out. But typically, unfortunately, most people don't know much about that. So they're not tracking it. They don't know what's going on, right? Other accounts that are like these are TSPs. If you're military, your TSP is sitting in a variable account. Your 401k is sitting in variable accounts. Your IRAs are sitting in variable accounts, which retirement, if you follow that same line of thinking, right? If your retirement accounts are in variable accounts, that means that your retirement is varied. Also meaning that your retirement is being gambled. Now, I do believe in variable accounts. I have some of these. I love these. And I've got partners, and we do all types of things to help people out with these kind of accounts, right? But I don't believe that your retirement should be gambled. Now, do I believe that there should be some level of growth potential in your retirement? Yes. Do I believe that maybe taking risks earlier on versus later on is okay within your retirement plan? Yes. Plan. That's the difference. A retirement plan is a combined, not just one product, one account. A retirement plan is an entire plan. You understand where you're going and what your retirement is doing. You understand what your money is doing right now. You understand the purposes of it. Yeah, you might take a little bit more risks here and there because you've got a plan, but you've got a plan. So you've also got the protection aspect of it as well, where you've got indexed growth. Now, index growth is going to be a good balance between safety and growth, right? So it's going to be kind of a good, kind of has the same benefits of fixed accounts where it is safe, right? You're not going to lose money to the stock market in these accounts, but also it still allows you to be able to have growth that's linked to the market. That's just mirroring how the market is growing, but it's mirroring index or indices, right? So the difference between like a variable accounts are all stock accounts. Now, indices are also variable accounts as well, but I'm not just talking about just like putting your money directly into like Apple or into Twitter or X. When I talk about index accounts Indices themselves are variable. An index fund, as an example, an index like the SP 500 or the Dow Jones or the JP Morgan, those accounts are groupings or conglomerate companies with multiple Fortune 100, 500, and 1,000 companies within them. Now, the good part about that is the fact that, like, it's a Fortune 500 company. It doesn't take as much. It doesn't have as many volatile years because it's a Fortune 500 company. Its growth is generally predictable, much more predictable than just an individual stock account, right? So since you've got also groupings of maybe 50, 100, 200, 400, 500 conglomerate companies, your money isn't just with one company when you've got your money in an index fund, all right? So if you got your money in an S&P 500, that money is spread across 100 companies instead of just one, right? It's spread across 500 companies instead of just one. When you've got your money in an index, your money is spread across 50, 200, 100 companies, whatever the case is, depending on the index itself, instead of just one. As an example, would you rather put your money directly into Twitter, where Elon Musk can make a crazy tweet and then it plunges for like 2 months? You wouldn't want that. No, you'd rather have your money in a grouping of companies where it's spread out, where maybe one of the companies has a bad year, but the rest of the companies have a good year. You just lowered that risk. You diversified your risk. But I'm not talking about that when I talk about index. I'm talking about indexing, where you are now mirroring those indexes, or those indices. You're mirroring accounts like the SP 500. You're mirroring, Vanguard style accounts. You're mirroring things like that, where you take part in the upside of the market and the upside growth, but none of the downside. None of the downside. Now, it's much harder to get these kind of accounts than other accounts, but you can still get them. These are things like Index Universal Life, IULs. A lot of people hate IULs for many different reasons, and I understand why they might hate IULs. There's so many great ways to build and have an IUL, especially as a part of your retirement plan, right? There's fixed index annuities, right? Fixed index annuities are fantastic for just really, to me, and I never say this, so you guys never hear this from me. Fixed index annuities are the best financial product that you can have in retirement. Period. If all of your retirement were all in fixed index annuities, like during retirement, you'd be okay. Be fine. You'd be fine. You'd be all right. But there are many other reasons to us. There are many other financial products that you can have, especially during the growth phase or the accumulation phase of your retirement planning life, right? You step into the growth phase of your retirement planning life the second that you get a job, when you're 16 or 18 or however old. Some people wait until like 28 to get a job now. But you step into the growth or accumulation phase at that point, where you're now trying to accumulate money for retirement. And if you're not growing money at that point within these accounts, then you're only shooting yourself in the foot, one. And then two, by the time you get to the distribution or the retirement phase, you should already have had a plan that's now you're able to put into action. And at that point is what I'm saying. If you've got just nothing but different types of fixed index annuities, at that point, you're going to be good. But having still a good combined version of these three are going to be very necessary. Because imagine putting money away while you're in the accumulation phase. If you only put money into a fixed account, by the time you get to retirement, you're not going to have any money. It's not even going to be worth the same amount of money as it is today. If you only put money in variable accounts, again, while you're growing, you're going to have all types of risks. And then what happens once you get to retirement? What are you going to do with your account? Obviously, when you're in retirement, you don't want to have the same risks of your retirement because you're literally in retirement. You need that money this year, next year, tomorrow. So what happens most of the time whenever somebody reaches retirement or about to reach retirement, they drop all of their variable accounts, their 401ks, their IRAs. They drop all of these accounts down to very, very low risk accounts, 1%, 2%, maybe. And so now their money really stops growing for them while they're in retirement. And that part sucks, but they're at least happy that they're taking money and that their money grew as much as it potentially could. That part sucks. because once you get into retirement, now your money stops growing for you. And then index, if all of your money is in index, like an index account like this is you're never going to have like a 3,000% growth like over 5 years, right? You're never going to just accidentally buy Bitcoin. Like that's not going to happen in an index account. Once again, like I said, the growth is predictable. So since it's more predictable, you're not going to have 6, 10, 12, 15% returns. I mean, I've seen more, right? But that's what you're going to get most times. So you're not going to get crazy amounts of growth. So if all of your money is only in index accounts, then you're missing out on a whole lot of growth potential. Yeah, you won't take any losses, which is going to be most fantastic for you. But at least in retirement, though, none of your money stops growing for you, right? So you need in retirement to have a good emergency fund. You need it while you're growing, period. All the time. You need a good emergency fund. Why? Because if you've got all your money tied up in variable accounts in retirement, guess where you got to take your money from if you get sick, which is very likely that you'll get sick, injured, or ill. You're going to have to take it from your variable accounts, which are only going to shorten your retirement plan if that's all you've got. So if you got emergency funds properly saved up and built up, you're going to be good, especially in retirement, right? Then also, if you've got index accounts in retirement, you can take your money from there because your money's not going to stop growing. It'll still continue to get 6 or 12 or whatever percentage that it's earning every year, right? Without being lost to the market. But let's say that the stock market is down and you've also got variable accounts still in retirement. Maybe because you've got a combination of index and fixed accounts, maybe because you've got a combination of those two where you got safe accounts, you're okay with still keeping some money in the market growing while you're in retirement. So let's say the stock market is negative this year and you're like, you know what? I won't take my income from my variable account. I'm going to take my income from my index account this year. So that way you don't lock in the losses whenever the market is down. And then you just wait till the market recovers, and then you start taking money back from your variable account and you leave your index account alone. And you let that grow some more. And now you've got a good combination, a good blend, because you've got random growth, and then you've got safe and protected, predictable growth, while also if anything happens, you get sick, injured, or ill, you've got a fixed account right there with your emergency funds ready to rock and roll. So that way you don't have to shorten your retirement because you have to take money out of your 401k. And I'm telling you, that happens all the time. People never properly plan for those illnesses, those injuries. And so they end up having to take money out of their 401k or the IRA, extra money, which shortens their retirement. That's where you need index accounts and fixed accounts as well. And same thing, vice versa. For all of these ones, there's always some other reason when you don't have a proper balance between all three of these. You don't have a proper balance between all three of these accounts. You're doing nothing but shooting yourself in the foot because this thing is going to happen. It's going to drain the other one. This thing is going to happen. It's going to drain this one. This thing is going to happen and it's going to drain this one. So make sure that you're understanding this. Now, obviously, that's what I'm here to teach, right? We're going to continue talking about more of these accounts and all types of things with these on our next episode on Friday. So if you learned something today, I'd love to know. Comment down below or comment in the comment section, wherever you're watching or listening or enjoying this from. Let me know. Comments actually pushes out more to people. So if you believe that more people need financial literacy, guess what you should be doing? Commenting. It'll push it out to more people. Sharing this with other people. Give it a little like. Give it a like. Come back and hang out. But we'll continue talking about this on Friday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. And I know I probably do these podcasts very early for you guys. Very, very early for you guys. But that's all right. That's okay. So anyway, guys, it was a pleasure today. I'm looking forward to helping you guys with understanding more about these on Friday as we continue into our series. But I want to go ahead and let you guys go. I hope that you guys have an amazing day. Have a good day overall. Have a good day overall. I think that Wednesday is like the best day that we could potentially have of the week. So have an amazing evening, morning, sip some good coffee, and I'll see you guys on Friday morning. Take care, guys.